This is a quiet place where you can rest while listening to gentle science. The pace will remain slow and even, with soft observations that move calmly from one moment to the next. Cyclones can stretch across hundreds of kilometers, yet at their center, there is often a calm region known as the eye, where winds become still and the sky may briefly clear. You can allow your attention to soften now. There is no need to follow every detail, and no need to hold on to any single idea. Each sentence can pass slowly, like a steady current moving through still air. The rhythm will remain even, without sudden changes or sharp turns. Breathing can settle into a natural pace, and the body can gradually feel more at ease. This is a space where information does not require effort. It simply exists in the background, calm and steady. Cyclones are large systems of rotating air that form over warm ocean waters. They develop gradually, beginning as small areas of low pressure where air begins to rise. As warm air lifts from the surface, cooler air moves in to take its place, creating a slow and continuous cycle of motion. The rotation of a cyclone is influenced by the movement of the Earth itself. This effect, known as the Coriolis force, causes air to curve as it moves across the planet. In the northern hemisphere, cyclones rotate counterclockwise, while in the southern hemisphere, they rotate clockwise. This rotation develops slowly and becomes more defined as the system grows. Warm ocean water provides the energy that allows a cyclone to form and continue. As water at the surface warms, it transfers heat to the air above it. This heat causes the air to rise gently. As it rises, the pressure below decreases, drawing in more air from surrounding areas. This process repeats in a steady cycle, allowing the system to organize itself over time. As the cyclone develops, bands of clouds begin to form. These bands curve inward toward the center, creating a spiral pattern. The movement of air within these bands is smooth and continuous, guided by pressure differences and the rotation of the Earth. Rainfall often occurs within these cloud bands, falling steadily without interruption. The eye of a cyclone forms as the system becomes more organized. In this central region, air slowly sinks instead of rising. This sinking motion reduces cloud formation, allowing the sky to appear clearer. Winds in the eye are lighter compared to the surrounding areas, creating a calm space within the larger system. Around the eye wall contains the strongest winds and most consistent rainfall. Air rises rapidly in this region, forming tall clouds that extend high into the atmosphere. Despite the strength of these winds, the movement remains structured and balanced, following the same steady rotation. Cyclones do not remain stationary. They move slowly across the ocean, guided by larger atmospheric patterns. These patterns act like gentle currents in the air, directing the path of the system over time. The movement is gradual, often covering long distances without sudden changes in direction. As a cyclone travels, it interacts with the environment around it. Variations in temperature, humidity, and wind can influence its structure. These influences do not act abruptly. Instead, they shape the system in small, continuous ways, allowing it to adjust without losing its overall form. When a cyclone moves over cooler water, its energy source begins to weaken. The rising air becomes less warm, reducing the strength of the upward motion. As a result, the system gradually loses intensity. This process happens slowly, with the structure fading over time rather than ending suddenly. If a cyclone reaches land, it no longer has access to warm ocean water. The surface beneath it becomes uneven, disrupting the smooth flow of air. Friction increases, and the organized rotation begins to weaken. Even then, the system often continues for some time, gradually becoming less defined. The size of a cyclone can vary widely. Some systems remain compact, while others expand to cover large areas of ocean. Regardless of size, the internal structure follows similar patterns. Air rises near the center, flows outward at higher levels, and returns toward the surface at the edges. Clouds within a cyclone are layered, forming at different heights in the atmosphere. Lower clouds may move in one direction, while higher clouds move in another. This layered motion creates a complex yet balanced system, where each part contributes to the whole. The pressure at the center of a cyclone is lower than the surrounding environment. This difference in pressure drives the movement of air inward. As air flows toward the center, it gains speed and begins to rotate more clearly, reinforcing the structure of the system. Moisture plays an important role in cyclone development. As warm air rises, it cools and releases water vapor in the form of clouds and rain. This release of moisture also releases heat, which further supports the rising motion. The process is gentle but continuous. Cyclones often form in regions where ocean temperatures are consistently warm. These areas provide stable conditions for development. The air above the ocean remains humid, and the temperature difference between the surface and upper atmosphere supports upward motion. The movement of a cyclone can be steady over several days. It may follow a curved path, influenced by the shape of atmospheric currents. These paths are not fixed, but they tend to follow patterns that repeat over time. Winds within a cyclone are strongest near the surface and decrease with height. As air rises, it spreads outward, slowing slightly as it moves away from the center. This creates a layered circulation that remains balanced and continuous. Even though cyclones are large systems, they are made up of many small processes working together. Each movement of air, each change in temperature, and each shift in moisture contributes to the overall structure. None of these processes acts alone. The boundaries of a cyclone are not sharply defined. Instead, they fade gradually into the surrounding atmosphere. The transition from the system to the environment is smooth, without clear edges. Cyclones can be observed using satellites, which capture images of their structure from above. These images show the spiral pattern clearly, with cloud bands wrapping around the center. Over time, the shape may change slightly as the system evolves. The life cycle of a cyclone includes formation, development, maturity, and weakening. Each stage flows into the next without sudden transitions. The system grows, stabilizes, and eventually fades, all within a continuous process. Some cyclones remain over the ocean for their entire lifespan. Others move across land and continue as weaker systems. In both cases, the movement remains steady, guided by the same underlying patterns. Temperature differences between the ocean and the atmosphere are a key factor in cyclone behavior. These differences create the conditions needed for air to rise and circulate. As long as the difference remains, the system can continue. The structure of a cyclone allows it to maintain balance over time. Air rising in one area is balanced by air sinking in another. This balance prevents the system from collapsing quickly, allowing it to persist. Wind direction changes gradually as one moves closer to the center of a cyclone. Far from the center, winds may be light and less organized. Closer in, the rotation becomes more noticeable, forming a clear circular pattern. Rainfall within a cyclone can vary in intensity, but it often remains steady over long periods. This steady rainfall contributes to the overall balance of the system, maintaining moisture levels. The upper levels of a cyclone play an important role in its development. Air that rises near the center must move outward at higher altitudes. This outward flow allows more air to rise from below, sustaining the cycle. Cyclones interact with other weather systems in subtle ways. Nearby pressure systems can influence their path, causing gentle changes in direction. These interactions are gradual and continuous. The ocean beneath a cyclone can change as well. Strong winds mix the upper layers of water, bringing cooler water to the surface. This cooling can reduce the energy available to the system, contributing to its gradual weakening. Despite their size and complexity, cyclones follow consistent physical principles. Air moves from areas of higher pressure to lower pressure. Heat causes air to rise, and cooling causes it to sink. These simple processes combine to create the larger system. Over time, the repeated formation of cyclones contributes to the movement of heat across the planet. Warm air is transported away from the equator toward higher latitudes. This movement helps balance global temperatures in a slow and steady way. Cloud patterns within cyclones can appear symmetrical when viewed from above. This symmetry reflects the balanced nature of the system. Each part aligns with the overall rotation, creating a unified structure. The speed at which a cyclone moves across the ocean can vary. Some travel slowly, while others move more quickly. Even so, the motion remains smooth, without abrupt changes. As a cyclone weakens, its structure becomes less organized. The clear eye may disappear, and the cloud bands may lose their defined shape. The system gradually blends back into the surrounding atmosphere. Even after a cyclone has dissipated, the effects can remain for some time. Moisture and energy are redistributed, influencing local weather patterns. These changes continue quietly, without sharp boundaries. The study of cyclones helps to understand how energy moves through the atmosphere. By observing these systems, patterns can be identified that apply to other forms of weather as well. In every stage, the movement within a cyclone remains connected. Air, water, and heat interact continuously, forming a system that is both dynamic and stable at the same time. As the circulation continues, air near the surface follows a gentle inward path. This inward movement is not direct. It curves slowly, guided by the rotation of the Earth and the pressure differences within the system. The path forms a spiral, widening at the outer edges and narrowing as it approaches the center. The spiral bands that extend from the center of a cyclone can stretch over long distances. These bands are made of clouds and areas of rainfall that follow the same curved pattern. Within them, the motion of air remains smooth and continuous, with no abrupt shifts in direction. Between these cloud bands, there are often regions where the sky appears clearer. These gaps are part of the overall structure, allowing for variation within the system without disrupting its balance. The pattern of clouds and clear areas creates a rhythm that repeats across the surface of the ocean. At higher altitudes, the air spreads outward from the center of the cyclone. This outward flow is gradual and even, allowing space for more air to rise from below. The balance between rising and outward moving air helps maintain the structure over time. The height of the clouds within a cyclone can reach far into the upper atmosphere. These tall clouds form as warm, moist air rises and cools. As the air cools, it releases moisture, which forms cloud layers that extend upward in a smooth vertical motion. The temperature within a cyclone can vary from the outer edges to the center. Near the surface, the air remains warm and humid. Higher up, the air becomes cooler. These differences in temperature support the continuous movement of air throughout the system. The eye of a cyclone often remains relatively stable as the system moves. While the surrounding clouds shift and change, the central calm region maintains its form for extended periods. This stability contributes to the overall balance of the cyclone. Wind speeds increase gradually as one moves closer to the center. There is no sudden boundary where calm air becomes strong wind. Instead, the change is smooth, with each step inward bringing a slight increase in motion. The ocean surface beneath a cyclone responds to the steady wind. Waves form and move in patterns that align with the direction of the wind. These waves are part of the system's interaction with the water, creating a connection between air and sea. Rainfall within a cyclone often occurs in a steady manner. Rather than brief, intense bursts, the rain can continue for extended periods. This steady precipitation reflects the consistent upward movement of air and the continuous release of moisture. Clouds within the cyclone can shift slowly in shape. Over time, bands may stretch, curve, or merge with one another. These changes happen gradually, maintaining the overall structure while allowing for subtle variation. The path of a cyclone is influenced by large-scale atmospheric currents. These currents act like gentle guides, directing the system across the ocean. The movement is steady, following patterns that repeat over time. In some cases, cyclones may slow down as they move into areas with weaker guiding currents. When this happens, the system can remain over one region for a longer period. Even then, the internal motion continues at the same calm pace. The energy within a cyclone is distributed throughout its structure. There is no single point where all motion is concentrated. Instead, the energy flows through the system in a balanced way, supporting continuous movement. As the cyclone interacts with cooler air masses, its structure can begin to change. The difference in temperature alters the movement of air, creating a gradual transition in form. This process happens over time, without sudden disruption. The clouds at the outer edges of a cyclone often appear thinner and less dense. These clouds mark the boundary where the system blends into the surrounding atmosphere. The transition is soft and continuous. At night, the appearance of a cyclone changes slightly. Without direct sunlight, the clouds reflect softer light, creating a more uniform and subdued visual pattern. The movement remains the same, even as the lighting shifts. During the day, sunlight highlights the shapes of the cloud bands. Shadows form within the layers, adding depth to the structure. These visual changes do not affect the motion, which remains steady and even. Cyclones can vary in their duration. Some exist for only a few days, while others persist for longer periods. Regardless of length, each system follows the same general cycle of formation, development, and weakening. The formation of a cyclone often begins with a small disturbance in the atmosphere. This disturbance may be a region where air begins to rise slightly more than usual. Over time, this small change can develop into a larger system. As the disturbance grows, the rotation becomes more noticeable. Air begins to move in a more organized pattern, forming the early stages of a cyclone. This development is gradual, building step by step. The surrounding environment plays a role in determining how much the cyclone can grow. Warm water, low wind shear, and high humidity all support development. When these conditions are present, the system can strengthen slowly. Wind shear refers to changes in wind direction or speed at different heights. When wind shear is low, the structure of the cyclone remains aligned. When it is higher, the system may become less organized, but the change remains gradual. The internal structure of a cyclone can sometimes shift slightly over time. The position of the eye may move within the larger cloud pattern. These shifts are small and do not disrupt the overall motion. The ocean temperature beneath the cyclone can change as the system moves. The mixing of water caused by wind can bring cooler layers to the surface. This cooling reduces the energy available, leading to a slow decrease in intensity. The atmosphere above the cyclone must allow air to flow outward. If this outflow is restricted, the rising motion can slow. When the outflow is clear, the system remains balanced and continues its steady circulation. Cyclones are part of a larger system of global weather patterns. They interact with other forms of atmospheric motion, contributing to the movement of heat and moisture across the planet. The moisture carried by a cyclone can travel long distances. As the system moves, it transports water vapor from one region to another. This process is gradual and continuous, linking different parts of the atmosphere. Even after a cyclone weakens, the remaining clouds and moisture can continue to influence weather. Rainfall may persist, and the air may remain humid for some time. These effects fade slowly. The rotation of a cyclone remains consistent throughout its life cycle. Even as it weakens, the circular motion can still be observed. The structure becomes less defined, but the underlying pattern remains. Some cyclones develop secondary features, such as smaller rotating areas within the larger system. These features move within the main circulation, following the same general direction. The boundaries between different parts of a cyclone are not fixed. They shift gradually as the system evolves. This flexibility allows the cyclone to adapt to changing conditions. Cloud tops within a cyclone can cool as they rise higher into the atmosphere. These cooler cloud tops often appear brighter when viewed from above. The variation in temperature adds depth to the structure. The flow of air within a cyclone is continuous, with no clear beginning or end. Air enters, rises, moves outward, and eventually returns to the surface. This cycle repeats steadily. Cyclones often form in specific regions of the world where conditions are favorable. These regions include warm ocean areas near the equator, where sunlight heats the water consistently. The distance from the equator influences the rotation of a cyclone. Systems do not typically form directly at the equator because the Coriolis effect is weaker there. A slight distance allows the rotation to develop. The movement of a cyclone can sometimes curve as it travels. This curved path reflects the influence of changing atmospheric currents. The transition in direction is smooth and gradual. The interaction between air and water within a cyclone creates a balanced exchange of energy. Heat moves from the ocean to the atmosphere, while wind transfers energy back to the surface of the water. Over time, the structure of a cyclone becomes less distinct as it weakens. The spiral bands fade, and the central eye may no longer be visible. The system merges gently with the surrounding atmosphere. The remains of a cyclone can still carry moisture and energy. These remnants may travel further, continuing to influence weather patterns in a softer form. The study of cyclones reveals patterns that repeat across different regions and times. These patterns provide insight into how the atmosphere maintains balance through continuous motion. Each cyclone is unique in its details, yet similar in its overall structure. This balance between variation and consistency reflects the steady nature of atmospheric processes. The motion of a cyclone does not rush. It follows a pace that is set by the environment, guided by temperature, pressure, and the rotation of the Earth. As the system continues, each part remains connected to the whole. Air, water, and heat move together, forming a unified pattern that persists over time. The circulation within a cyclone continues with a steady rhythm, extending across wide areas of ocean and atmosphere. Each movement of air follows a path shaped by pressure differences and gentle rotation. The flow remains consistent, with no sudden changes in speed or direction. At the outer edges of a cyclone, the air begins to blend with the surrounding environment. Winds are lighter here, and the organized spiral becomes less defined. Even so, the gradual motion continues, linking the system to the wider atmosphere. Cloud formations within the cyclone shift slowly over time. Bands may lengthen or curve more tightly, adjusting to subtle changes in temperature and airflow. These adjustments are continuous, allowing the structure to remain balanced without interruption. The eye of the cyclone often drifts slightly as the system evolves. This movement is small and gradual, reflecting internal adjustments within the circulation. The calm nature of the eye remains, even as its position shifts. Air pressure differences between the center and the outer regions create a steady inward flow. This flow is smooth and curved, forming the spiral shape that defines the cyclone. The pattern repeats continuously, maintaining the system's structure. The ocean surface beneath the cyclone responds to the persistent wind. Waves align with the direction of airflow, forming patterns that move outward from the center. These wave patterns change slowly, following the rhythm of the wind above. As air rises within the cyclone, it cools and forms clouds that extend upward. These clouds can reach high into the atmosphere, where temperatures are lower. The vertical movement remains gentle and continuous. The release of heat during cloud formation supports the ongoing motion of the cyclone. This process occurs quietly, with energy transferred through small, steady changes in temperature and moisture. Cyclones can vary in their symmetry. Some appear evenly balanced, with smooth, circular patterns. Others may show slight irregularities, shaped by environmental influences. In both cases, the overall motion remains calm and organized. The path of a cyclone is guided by large-scale air currents that move across the planet. These currents act like slow-moving streams, carrying the system along a predictable route. The movement is gradual and steady. As the cyclone travels, it may encounter regions of different temperature or humidity. These variations influence the structure in subtle ways. The system adapts without losing its overall form. The upper atmosphere plays a quiet but important role in maintaining the cyclone. Air that rises from the surface must move outward at higher levels. This outward flow allows the cycle of motion to continue without interruption. In some cases, the outflow at high altitudes becomes more defined, forming a broad, spreading pattern. This pattern supports the balance of the system, allowing air to circulate freely. Cyclones often move more slowly over open water than over land. The smooth surface of the ocean allows the airflow to remain consistent. Over land, the terrain introduces gentle disruptions that gradually weaken the system. When a cyclone approaches land, the change in surface texture begins to influence the motion. Friction increases slightly, slowing the winds and altering the flow of air. This process is gradual and steady. Rainfall associated with a cyclone can extend far from the center. Outer bands may bring light, steady rain over large areas. This rainfall is part of the broader circulation, maintaining moisture within the system. Cloud layers within the cyclone can vary in thickness. Some areas may appear denser, while others are more transparent. These variations create a soft, shifting pattern that evolves over time. The rotation of a cyclone is consistent, but the speed of rotation can change gradually. As the system strengthens, the rotation becomes more defined. As it weakens, the rotation slows gently. The energy within a cyclone is not concentrated in one place. It is distributed across the entire system, with each part contributing to the overall motion. This distribution allows the cyclone to maintain stability. The interaction between the ocean and the atmosphere within a cyclone creates a continuous exchange of energy. Heat moves upward from the water, while wind transfers energy back to the surface. This exchange remains balanced. As the cyclone continues, its influence can extend beyond its immediate structure. Moisture and airflow patterns can affect surrounding regions, creating a broader area of calm, steady change. The gradual weakening of a cyclone often begins when it moves into less favorable conditions. Cooler water, drier air, or increased wind shear can reduce the system's strength. These changes occur slowly. Even as a cyclone weakens, its structure can remain visible for some time. The spiral pattern may persist, though less defined. The motion continues in a softer, more diffuse form. The remnants of a cyclone can merge with other weather systems. This merging is gentle, with no clear boundary between the systems. The combined motion continues as part of the larger atmospheric flow. The life cycle of a cyclone reflects a balance between energy input and energy loss. When input exceeds loss, the system grows. When loss exceeds input, it weakens. This balance shifts gradually over time. The temperature of the ocean surface plays a central role in sustaining a cyclone. Warmer water provides more energy, while cooler water reduces it. The transition between these conditions is smooth. Air within the cyclone follows curved paths that align with the rotation. These paths create a sense of continuous motion, with each part of the system connected to the next. The structure of a cyclone can sometimes reorganize itself. The eye wall may shift or change shape, and new bands may form. These changes are part of the natural evolution of the system. The presence of clouds within a cyclone affects how heat is distributed. Clouds reflect some sunlight and trap heat within the system. This balance influences the overall temperature structure. As the cyclone moves, it may encounter variations in ocean depth. These variations can affect how heat is transferred from the water to the air. The impact is gradual and subtle. The surrounding atmosphere provides a framework within which the cyclone exists. Pressure systems, wind patterns, and temperature gradients all contribute to its movement and structure. Cyclones can travel long distances across the ocean, maintaining their form for extended periods. The journey is steady, guided by the same underlying processes that formed the system. The interaction between different layers of the atmosphere within a cyclone creates a complex but balanced structure. Each layer moves in relation to the others, maintaining continuity. The flow of air within the cyclone does not stop. It moves continuously, even as the system changes in size or strength. This ongoing motion is a defining characteristic. The boundaries of the cyclone remain soft and gradual. There is no sharp edge where the system ends. Instead, it fades into the surrounding air in a smooth transition. As the system evolves, its influence on the ocean and atmosphere continues. Waves, clouds, and wind patterns all reflect the presence of the cyclone, even as it changes. Over time, the organized structure of the cyclone becomes less distinct. The spiral pattern fades, and the central features blend into the surrounding environment. The motion continues in a more diffuse form. The remains of the cyclone eventually become part of the broader atmospheric flow. The energy and moisture it carried are redistributed, contributing to the ongoing balance of the environment. The processes that create and sustain cyclones are part of the larger system of weather on Earth. These processes operate continuously, shaping the movement of air and water across the planet. Each cyclone is one example of how energy moves through the atmosphere. It forms, develops, and fades, all within a steady and continuous cycle. The motion of air within a cyclone reflects the balance between forces that shape the atmosphere. Pressure, temperature, and rotation all contribute to the movement. As the system continues its path, it remains part of a larger pattern that extends across the globe. This pattern connects different regions through the movement of air and water. The rhythm of a cyclone does not depend on speed or intensity. It is defined by consistency, with each movement flowing into the next without interruption. Over time, the presence of a cyclone becomes less noticeable as it fades into the background of the atmosphere. The motion continues, but in a softer and more subtle way. The atmosphere returns to a more even state, with the energy from the cyclone distributed across a wider area. This transition is gradual, without clear boundaries. The cycle of formation, movement, and dissipation continues across different regions and seasons. Each system follows a similar pattern, shaped by the same natural processes. The steady nature of these processes creates a sense of continuity. There is no abrupt beginning or end, only a gradual unfolding of motion over time. As the movement slows and blends into the surrounding air, the patterns remain, though less defined. The influence of the cyclone becomes part of the larger balance of the atmosphere. The flow of air, the movement of water, and the transfer of heat continue together, forming a quiet and continuous system that extends beyond any single moment. This is a quiet continuation where the same steady rhythm remains, allowing each idea to move gently from one to the next without effort or urgency. Cyclones can sometimes form in clusters, where multiple systems exist within the same broad region of warm ocean water. These systems do not rush toward one another. Instead, they move within the larger flow of the atmosphere, maintaining distance while following similar environmental patterns. You can allow your attention to remain soft and unfocused. There is no need to follow each detail closely. The movement of these ideas can simply exist in the background, like a slow and steady current. Breathing can remain natural, and the body can continue to settle into a comfortable stillness. This is a calm space where information flows gently, without demand or intensity. In regions where cyclones are more common, the atmosphere often holds conditions that support their formation. Warm water, steady humidity, and gentle atmospheric motion combine to create an environment where these systems can develop over time. The presence of one cyclone does not prevent another from forming. Each system follows its own path, shaped by the same underlying forces. When multiple cyclones exist within a similar area, they may influence one another in subtle ways. Their circulations can interact, causing slight shifts in direction or structure. This interaction is gradual, unfolding over time without sudden changes. Each system continues to move within the broader atmospheric flow. The spacing between cyclones often remains balanced. They do not typically merge quickly or collide directly. Instead, they adjust their paths slowly, guided by pressure differences and the rotation of the Earth. This creates a quiet coordination across large distances. The ocean beneath these systems remains a steady source of energy. Even when one cyclone passes through an area, the water can gradually warm again, allowing conditions to return to a state that supports future development. This cycle repeats over long periods. Cyclones can also form in sequences, where one system develops after another in the same region. The atmosphere and ocean work together to create conditions that persist over time. These sequences are not rushed. Each system forms, moves, and fades at its own pace. In some cases, the presence of a cyclone can influence the environment for the next one. The mixing of ocean water and the redistribution of heat can create subtle changes. These changes do not prevent future systems but shape how they develop. The upper atmosphere remains an important part of this process. Air flowing at high altitudes can support or limit the growth of cyclones. When the flow is smooth and steady, it allows systems to maintain their structure. When it becomes uneven, the structure may adjust gradually. Cloud patterns across regions with multiple cyclones can appear complex, yet they follow consistent physical rules. Each cloud band, each area of rainfall, and each movement of air contributes to a larger pattern that remains balanced. The movement of cyclones across open water often follows paths that curve gently. These curves are shaped by large-scale atmospheric circulation. The path may shift slowly over time, reflecting changes in these broader patterns. Cyclones that form closer to the equator tend to move in a more westward direction at first. As they travel farther from the equator, their paths may begin to curve toward the poles. This change is gradual and follows the natural flow of the atmosphere. The speed at which cyclones move can vary, but the variation is smooth. Some systems drift slowly, while others move more steadily. Even when the speed changes, the transition remains gentle. Air pressure within and around cyclones continues to guide their movement. Areas of higher pressure can steer the system away, while lower pressure areas may draw it closer. These influences act over time, shaping the path without abrupt shifts. The interaction between cyclones and ocean currents can also play a role. Warm currents can provide additional energy, while cooler currents may reduce it. These interactions are subtle, influencing the system gradually. At times, cyclones may weaken and then regain some strength if they move back over warmer water. This change does not happen suddenly. The system responds slowly to the renewed energy, adjusting its structure in a balanced way. The clouds within a cyclone continue to evolve as it moves. Bands may tighten or loosen, depending on the internal balance of the system. These changes are part of the natural cycle of motion. The eye of a cyclone may become more or less defined over time. In some cases, it appears clear and stable. In others, it becomes less visible as the structure shifts. The transition is smooth and continuous. Rainfall patterns within the cyclone can also change gradually. Some areas may receive steady rain for long periods, while others experience lighter precipitation. These variations occur without disrupting the overall balance. Wind speeds within the system can increase or decrease slowly as conditions change. There is no sudden jump from calm to strong winds. Instead, the change is progressive, maintaining a consistent rhythm. Cyclones that move into regions with stronger wind shear often begin to tilt slightly. This tilt affects the alignment of the system, causing the structure to become less organized. The process happens gradually. Despite these changes, the circulation of air continues. Even when the structure weakens, the motion remains, carrying energy and moisture across the atmosphere. The ocean surface continues to respond to the presence of the cyclone. Waves form and move in patterns that reflect the wind above. These patterns shift slowly as the system evolves. The exchange of heat between the ocean and the atmosphere remains constant. Warm water releases energy into the air, while wind mixes the surface layers of the ocean. This exchange supports the ongoing motion. Cyclones can also interact with larger weather systems, such as high-pressure areas or jet streams. These interactions can alter the path or structure of the cyclone. The changes occur over time, without sudden disruption. As a cyclone moves farther from warm ocean regions, it gradually loses access to its primary energy source. The structure becomes less defined, and the motion slows. This process unfolds gently. In some cases, a weakening cyclone can transition into a different type of weather system. The rotation may remain, but the structure changes. This transformation happens slowly, maintaining continuity. The remnants of a cyclone can travel across large areas, bringing moisture and cloud cover to distant regions. These remnants continue to move within the broader atmospheric flow. The patterns created by cyclones contribute to the overall balance of the Earth's climate system. They help redistribute heat from warmer regions to cooler ones, supporting a steady global equilibrium. Each cyclone is part of a repeating cycle that occurs across oceans and seasons. The formation, movement, and dissipation of these systems create a continuous flow of energy and motion. The atmosphere does not remain still. It moves in layers and patterns that are always changing, yet always balanced. Cyclones are one expression of this ongoing movement. As the motion continues, it remains smooth and consistent. There is no need for speed or urgency. The system follows the conditions that surround it, adjusting naturally. The quiet repetition of these processes creates a sense of continuity across time. Cyclones form, move, and fade, each one blending into the next within the larger pattern of the atmosphere. The flow of air, the movement of clouds, and the exchange of heat continue together, forming a system that is both dynamic and stable. Each part supports the whole, maintaining balance without interruption. The movement continues with the same steady rhythm, extending across the open ocean and into the surrounding atmosphere. Each layer of air follows its own path, yet remains connected to the larger circulation. The flow is continuous, without interruption, guided by pressure, temperature, and rotation. At the outer regions of a cyclone, the air becomes less organized, blending softly into the wider environment. The winds are lighter, and the spiral pattern becomes more subtle. Even so, the motion does not stop. It simply becomes less defined, continuing as part of the broader atmospheric movement. Cloud bands within the system may shift slightly as time passes. They can stretch outward or curve more tightly around the center. These changes are gradual, allowing the overall structure to remain balanced and consistent. Nothing moves abruptly. Each adjustment follows the same calm pace. The ocean surface reflects the presence of the cyclone in a quiet way. Waves move in alignment with the wind, forming patterns that repeat over distance. These patterns shift slowly, responding to the steady flow of air above. The interaction between wind and water remains gentle and continuous. As air rises within the cyclone, it carries moisture upward. This moisture forms clouds that expand and layer through the atmosphere. The process is smooth, with no sudden transitions. The clouds grow and shift as part of the ongoing circulation. Temperature differences within the system remain subtle but important. Warm air near the surface supports upward motion, while cooler air at higher levels allows for gradual spreading outward. This balance sustains the movement over time. The eye of the cyclone can remain present even as other parts of the system change. It may shift slightly in position, but its calm nature persists. The surrounding motion continues to rotate around it, maintaining the overall structure. Wind speeds very gently across the cyclone. Closer to the center, the motion becomes more noticeable. Farther away, it softens. This transition happens gradually, without clear boundaries or sharp changes. The path of the cyclone continues to follow large-scale atmospheric currents. These currents act as a guide, shaping the direction of travel over time. The movement is smooth, often forming a slow curve across the ocean. In some regions, the atmosphere may provide more support for the cyclone structure. In others, the support may decrease. These differences influence the system gradually, allowing it to adapt without losing continuity. Cloud formations at higher altitudes move outward from the center. This outward flow creates space for rising air below, maintaining the balance of the system. The process is steady and ongoing. The structure of the cyclone can become more or less symmetrical depending on surrounding conditions. Some systems maintain a nearly circular form, while others show slight variations. In both cases, the motion remains calm and organized. As the cyclone travels, it may pass over areas of varying ocean temperature. Warmer areas provide more energy, while cooler areas reduce it. The transition between these zones is gradual, influencing the system slowly. The exchange of heat between the ocean and the atmosphere continues throughout the life of the cyclone. This exchange supports the circulation, allowing the system to persist over time. Rainfall within the cyclone remains steady in many areas. It can continue for long periods without interruption, reflecting the consistent upward movement of air and moisture. The pattern is even and predictable. At times, the cyclone may interact with other atmospheric systems. These interactions can cause gentle shifts in direction or structure. The changes unfold over time, without sudden movement. The outer edges of the cyclone continue to blend into the surrounding air. There is no sharp boundary where the system ends. Instead, the transition is smooth, with the influence fading gradually. As the system evolves, its internal balance may shift slightly. The position of the strongest winds, the shape of the cloud bands, and the clarity of the eye can all change. These changes occur in a steady and continuous way. The movement of air within the cyclone remains connected from one part to another. Air enters near the surface, rises, spreads outward, and eventually returns. This cycle repeats without interruption. In some cases, the cyclone may slow its forward motion. When this happens, the internal circulation continues at the same calm pace. The system remains active even when its path becomes less pronounced. The ocean beneath the cyclone continues to respond to the wind. Surface layers mix gently, bringing cooler water upward. This cooling reduces the energy available, contributing to a gradual weakening. As the cyclone begins to weaken, the structure becomes less defined. The spiral pattern softens, and the eye may fade. The motion continues, but in a more diffuse form. Clouds may spread out over a larger area as the system loses its tight organization. These clouds remain part of the broader atmospheric flow, carrying moisture across wide regions. The rotation of the cyclone does not stop immediately. It slows gradually, maintaining a sense of continuity even as the system fades. The circular motion becomes less distinct over time. The remaining energy within the system is redistributed into the surrounding atmosphere. This redistribution happens slowly, blending the cyclone's influence into the larger environment. In some cases, the remnants of a cyclone may merge with other weather patterns. This merging is gentle, with no clear boundary between systems. The motion continues as part of a larger flow. The overall pattern of cyclone activity remains consistent across seasons and regions. While individual systems vary, the underlying processes stay the same. This consistency creates a stable rhythm in the atmosphere. The movement of heat from the ocean to the atmosphere continues beyond the life of a single cyclone. Each system contributes to this larger process, helping maintain balance across the planet. The atmosphere itself remains in constant motion, shaped by forces that operate quietly over time. Cyclones are one expression of this motion, forming and fading within the broader system. As the influence of a cyclone diminishes, the environment returns to a more even state. Winds become lighter, clouds disperse, and the ocean surface calms. The transition is gradual. The patterns created by the cyclone do not disappear completely. They leave subtle traces in the distribution of moisture and temperature. These traces continue to influence the atmosphere. The repetition of these processes creates a sense of continuity. Cyclones form, move, and fade, each one following a similar path shaped by natural forces. The balance between energy input and energy loss remains central to the system. When energy decreases, the structure softens. The motion continues, but with less intensity. Air continues to move across the region where the cyclone once existed. The flow becomes more uniform, blending into the general circulation of the atmosphere. Clouds that were once part of the cyclone may drift away, becoming part of other weather patterns. Their movement remains slow and steady. The ocean surface gradually returns to a calmer state. Waves become smaller, and the patterns created by the wind fade over time. The atmosphere settles into a quieter flow, with the energy from the cyclone distributed across a wider area. This distribution supports the ongoing balance of the system. The cycle of formation and dissipation continues elsewhere, as new cyclones begin to develop in other regions. Each system follows the same gentle progression. The movement of air, water, and heat remains connected across the planet. These elements interact continuously, creating patterns that extend across distance and time. As the flow continues, it remains smooth and unbroken. There is no clear boundary where one system ends and another begins. The atmosphere carries on in a steady, balanced motion. The quiet rhythm of these processes continues, extending beyond any single moment. Each movement blends into the next, forming a continuous pattern that remains calm and unhurried. The atmosphere continues to move in a steady and quiet way, carrying patterns of air that shift gradually over time. Within this movement, new areas of low pressure can begin to form, often in regions where the ocean remains warm and the air above it is calm and humid. These early stages are subtle, with only small changes in wind direction and cloud formation. As these areas begin to organize, the motion of air becomes slightly more defined. The inward flow starts to curve gently, guided by the rotation of the Earth. This curvature is gradual, forming the early outline of a circular pattern. The process does not rush. It builds step by step, each small change contributing to the overall structure. Clouds begin to gather more consistently as the system develops. Moist air rises slowly, cooling as it moves upward and forming layers of cloud that expand outward. These clouds do not appear all at once. They grow over time, forming bands that begin to curve around the center of the developing system. The ocean beneath continues to provide energy in a quiet and steady way. Warm water transfers heat to the air above, supporting the upward movement that sustains the circulation. This exchange remains balanced, allowing the system to strengthen gradually without sudden change. As the circulation becomes more organized, the center of the system begins to take shape. The pressure in this area lowers slightly, drawing in more air from the surroundings. This inward flow reinforces the rotation, making the circular motion more noticeable. Wind patterns within the system adjust slowly as the structure develops. At first, the winds are light and variable. Over time, they align more closely with the circular motion, forming a smoother and more consistent flow around the center. The surrounding atmosphere plays a continuous role in shaping the system. Gentle currents at higher altitudes allow air to move outward, creating space for more air to rise from below. This balance between rising and outward movement supports the steady development of the cyclone. The cloud bands that form within the system can extend far from the center. These bands curve inward, creating a spiral pattern that becomes more defined over time. Rainfall within these bands remains steady, reflecting the consistent upward movement of air. The structure of the cyclone remains flexible as it develops. It may shift slightly in position or shape, responding to changes in the surrounding environment. These adjustments are smooth, maintaining the overall balance of the system. As the cyclone strengthens, the central region may begin to clear, forming the early stages of the eye. This clearing happens gradually, as sinking air reduces cloud formation in the center. The calm nature of this region becomes more noticeable over time. The winds surrounding the eye increase in strength as the system organizes. This increase is not sudden. It develops progressively, with each moment building on the last. The rotation remains smooth and continuous. Temperature differences within the cyclone support its ongoing motion. Warm air near the surface rises, while cooler air at higher levels spreads outward. This vertical movement creates a layered structure that remains stable over time. The movement of the cyclone across the ocean begins as a slow drift. Large-scale atmospheric patterns guide its direction, acting like gentle currents that carry the system along. The path may curve slightly, reflecting changes in these guiding forces. As the cyclone travels, it interacts with different areas of the ocean. Variations in water temperature influence the energy available to the system. Warmer regions support continued development, while cooler areas lead to gradual weakening. The ocean's surface continues to respond to the wind, forming waves that align with the direction of airflow. These waves shift slowly as the cyclone moves, maintaining a connection between the air above and the water below. Clouds within the system continue to evolve. Bands may become more defined or spread outward, depending on the balance of forces within the cyclone. These changes occur without disruption, maintaining a steady rhythm. The atmosphere above the cyclone remains an open pathway for air to move outward. This outflow is essential for maintaining the circulation. When it remains steady, the system continues to develop in a balanced way. Wind shear in the surrounding environment can influence the structure of the cyclone. When the difference in wind direction between layers is small, the system remains aligned. When the difference increases, the structure may tilt slightly, adjusting over time. The moisture within the cyclone is continuously recycled. As air rises and cools, it releases water in the form of rain. This moisture contributes to the ongoing cycle, supporting the steady motion of the system. As the cyclone matures, its structure becomes more defined. The spiral bands are clearer, the eye is more stable, and the overall circulation is more organized. Even at this stage, the movement remains calm and measured. The interaction between the cyclone and the larger atmosphere continues throughout its life. Nearby pressure systems can influence its path, causing gentle shifts in direction. These influences act slowly, shaping the movement over time. The energy within the cyclone is distributed across its entire structure. There is no single point of focus. Instead, the motion is shared, with each part contributing to the overall balance. As time passes, the cyclone may begin to weaken. This process starts gradually, often as it moves into less favorable conditions. The structure softens, and the clear patterns become less defined. The eye may become less distinct as clouds begin to fill the central region. This change happens slowly, with the calm area blending into the surrounding cloud cover. Wind speeds decrease gradually as the system loses energy. The rotation remains, but it becomes less pronounced. The motion continues, though in a softer form. Cloud bands spread outward and become less tightly curved. The spiral pattern fades, blending into the broader atmosphere. Rainfall may continue, but it becomes more evenly distributed. The remnants of the cyclone continue to move within the larger atmospheric flow. They carry moisture and energy, influencing weather patterns in a gentle way. The ocean surface beneath the fading system begins to calm. Waves become smaller, and the patterns created by the wind gradually disappear. The atmosphere returns to a more even state, with the energy from the cyclone distributed across a wider area. This transition is smooth, without clear boundaries. New areas of low pressure may begin to form elsewhere, continuing the cycle. Each new system develops in the same gradual way, following the same natural processes. The repetition of these patterns creates a sense of continuity across time. Cyclones form, move, and fade, each one part of a larger rhythm that shapes the atmosphere. The flow of air remains steady, guided by pressure, temperature, and the rotation of the Earth. This flow connects different regions, carrying energy and moisture across long distances. As the movement continues, it remains calm and unbroken. There is no need for speed or urgency. Each change happens in its own time, supported by the environment. The quiet balance of these processes creates a stable system that persists over time. Air, water, and heat move together, forming patterns that extend across the planet. The atmosphere continues to shift gently, with each motion blending into the next. The presence of a cyclone becomes part of this ongoing flow, contributing to the overall balance. Over time, the influence of each system fades, but the patterns remain. The cycle continues, repeating in a calm and steady way. The movement does not come to a sudden stop. It simply becomes less defined, blending into the broader motion of the atmosphere. The steady rhythm remains, extending across distance and time, forming a continuous pattern that supports balance and stability. The steady motion continues, with the atmosphere maintaining a gentle flow that extends across wide regions of ocean and land. Within this flow, subtle differences in pressure and temperature create areas where air begins to move in slightly more organized patterns. These patterns are soft and gradual, forming without any sudden shift. As air gathers into these areas, the movement begins to curve in a familiar way. The rotation develops slowly, guided by the same forces that shape all large-scale weather systems. Each movement blends into the next, creating a smooth and continuous transition from one state to another. Clouds begin to form where the air rises most consistently. These clouds expand outward, building in layers that reflect the steady upward motion. The process remains calm, with no abrupt changes in shape or structure. Each layer forms as part of the larger system. The ocean below continues to provide a quiet source of energy. Warmth from the surface moves into the air above, supporting the gentle circulation. This exchange happens continuously, maintaining the balance needed for the system to exist. Wind patterns align more clearly as the structure becomes more defined. The flow of air follows curved paths, moving inward near the surface and outward at higher levels. This layered motion creates a sense of depth within the system. The center of the circulation may begin to show a slight clearing, where the motion of air shifts from rising to sinking. This shift reduces cloud formation in that area, creating a calm region within the broader pattern. The change is gradual and steady. Surrounding this central area, the movement remains more active. Air rises in smooth, continuous currents, forming clouds that extend upward and outward. The balance between these regions maintains the structure over time. As the system moves, it follows the gentle guidance of larger atmospheric currents. These currents shape the path without forcing sudden changes. The direction may shift slightly, forming a curved trajectory that reflects the flow of the atmosphere. Variations in the environment continue to influence the system in small ways. Changes in ocean temperature, humidity, and wind patterns all contribute to the ongoing evolution. Each influence is absorbed gradually, allowing the system to adapt. The clouds within the system continue to shift in form. Bands may stretch, curve, or become less defined, depending on the balance of forces. These changes remain smooth, maintaining a consistent rhythm. Rainfall continues as part of the steady upward motion of air. In some areas, it may fall lightly and continuously, while in others it may be slightly more pronounced. The pattern remains even and unhurried. The interaction between air and water remains a central part of the process. Wind shapes the surface of the ocean, while heat from the water supports the movement of air. This interaction creates a continuous exchange that sustains the system. As time passes, the structure may begin to soften. The central clearing may become less distinct, and the cloud bands may spread outward. These changes occur slowly, reflecting a gradual reduction in energy. The motion of air remains present even as the system weakens. The circular flow continues, though it becomes less tightly organized. The transition is smooth, with no clear point where the system ends. Clouds that were once part of the organized structure begin to blend into the surrounding atmosphere. They drift outward, becoming part of the broader pattern of movement. The distinction between the system and its environment fades. The ocean surface gradually returns to a calmer state. Waves decrease in size, and the patterns created by the wind begin to disappear. The change is steady and continuous. The atmosphere redistributes the energy that was once concentrated within the system. This energy spreads across a wider area, contributing to the overall balance of the environment. The process is quiet and ongoing. New areas of gentle organization may begin to form elsewhere, continuing the cycle. Each new system follows the same pattern, shaped by the same forces. The repetition creates a sense of continuity. The flow of air across the planet remains connected. Movement in one region influences movement in another, creating a network of interactions that extend across distance and time. Cyclones are one expression of this larger system. Temperature differences continue to guide the motion of air. Warm regions support rising motion, while cooler regions allow air to settle. This balance maintains the steady circulation of the atmosphere. The layered structure of the atmosphere allows different types of motion to occur simultaneously. Near the surface, winds may move in one direction, while higher up they follow another path. These layers interact without disrupting the overall flow. The calm rhythm of these processes remains unchanged. Each movement is part of a continuous pattern that does not require speed or urgency. The system evolves at a pace that supports stability. Cloud formations across the ocean reflect the ongoing movement of air. Even outside of organized systems, clouds drift and shift, following the same gentle principles. The atmosphere remains active, though always balanced. The cycle of energy transfer between the ocean and atmosphere continues without interruption. Heat rises, air moves, and moisture circulates. These processes are constant, forming the foundation of weather patterns. As the movement continues, it becomes part of the background of the environment. The presence of any single system fades, while the overall pattern remains. The atmosphere carries on in a steady and predictable way. Over time, the repetition of these processes shapes the climate of different regions. Patterns of temperature, rainfall, and wind emerge from the continuous flow of energy and motion. The influence of cyclones extends beyond their immediate presence. They contribute to the redistribution of heat and moisture, supporting the balance of the global system. This influence remains subtle and ongoing. The quiet nature of these processes allows them to continue without interruption. There is no need for sudden change or rapid movement. Everything unfolds gradually, maintaining a sense of calm. The atmosphere remains a connected system, with each part influencing the others. Movement in one area becomes part of a larger pattern that extends across the planet. As the flow continues, it remains smooth and even. Each change blends into the next, creating a continuous sequence of motion that feels stable and unbroken. The patterns formed by air, water, and heat continue to repeat, forming cycles that extend across time. These cycles create a steady rhythm that supports the balance of the environment. The motion does not end. It simply shifts, becoming part of the larger flow that surrounds it. The atmosphere carries on, maintaining its quiet and continuous movement. The steady rhythm remains, extending beyond any single system, connecting all parts of the environment in a calm and unbroken flow. The flow continues in the same quiet way, with air moving across the surface of the ocean and rising gently where conditions allow. These motions do not stand apart from one another. They remain connected, forming a continuous pattern that shifts slowly over time. Within this pattern, small variations in pressure begin to organize the movement of air. These variations are subtle, often spreading across wide areas without sharp boundaries. As air responds to these differences, it follows curved paths that gradually form a sense of rotation. Clouds gather where the upward motion is most consistent. They build layer by layer, forming soft structures that expand outward from the areas of rising air. The edges of these clouds remain diffuse, blending into the surrounding sky. The ocean's surface continues to exchange energy with the atmosphere above. Warmth from the water supports the rising motion, while the movement of air shapes the surface in gentle patterns. This exchange is constant and balanced. As the rotation becomes more noticeable, the structure begins to resemble a familiar circular pattern. Air moves inward near the surface, rises, and then spreads outward at higher levels. This cycle repeats without interruption. The central region of the system may begin to show a slight reduction in cloud density. This occurs as air slowly descends in that area, creating a calm space within the broader circulation. The transition is gradual and steady. Surrounding this calm center, the motion remains more active. Clouds form and shift continuously, guided by the steady upward flow of air. The balance between these regions maintains the overall structure. The path of the system continues to be shaped by larger atmospheric currents. These currents move slowly, guiding the direction without forcing sudden changes. The movement remains smooth and predictable. Temperature differences across the ocean influence the energy available to the system. Warmer areas support continued motion, while cooler areas lead to a gradual reduction in strength. The transition between these areas is soft and continuous. Wind patterns adjust gradually as the system evolves. Near the center, the motion becomes more organized. Farther away, it becomes less defined. This variation occurs without sharp boundaries. Rainfall continues as part of the steady movement of moisture within the system. It may fall lightly and persistently, reflecting the continuous upward motion of air. The pattern remains even and unhurried. The clouds within the system continue to change shape over time. Bands may stretch outward or curve more tightly, depending on the balance of forces. These changes are part of the natural flow. At higher altitudes, air spreads outward from the center, creating space for more air to rise below. This outward movement is essential for maintaining the circulation, and it remains steady. The interaction between the system and the surrounding atmosphere remains constant. Nearby pressure patterns and wind flows influence the structure in subtle ways. These influences unfold gradually. As time passes, the the structure may begin to soften. The central calm region may become less distinct, and the cloud bands may spread outward. The system does not stop. It simply changes form. The ocean surface responds to the shifting winds, with wave patterns adjusting slowly. These changes reflect the evolving structure of the system above. The exchange of heat between the ocean and atmosphere continues, even as the system weakens. This exchange supports the ongoing movement of air, though in a less concentrated form. Clouds that were once part of the organized structure begin to drift outward. They become part of the wider atmospheric pattern, blending into the background. The rotation within the system remains, though it becomes less defined over time. The circular motion continues gently, maintaining continuity. The energy that once supported the system spreads across a wider area. This redistribution occurs gradually, contributing to the overall balance of the atmosphere. New areas of gentle organization may begin to form in other regions, continuing the cycle. Each system follows a similar pattern, shaped by the same underlying forces. The atmosphere remains in constant motion, with patterns that repeat across time and space. Cyclones are one expression of this movement, forming and fading within the larger flow. The layered structure of the atmosphere allows different movements to occur at the same time. These layers interact smoothly, maintaining balance. Temperature differences continue to guide the motion of air. Warm air rises, cool air settles, and the cycle continues without interruption. The movement of air across the ocean and land remains connected. Changes in one area influence the flow in another, creating a network of interactions. As the system fades, its presence becomes less noticeable. The patterns it created remain, but they blend into the broader movement of the atmosphere. The ocean surface gradually becomes calmer, with waves decreasing in size. The patterns formed by the wind begin to disappear. The atmosphere returns to a more even state, with energy distributed across a wider region. This transition is smooth and continuous. The repetition of these processes creates a steady rhythm that extends across the planet. Each cycle contributes to the balance of the environment. The motion does not end. It continues in a softer form, becoming part of the ongoing flow of air, water, and heat. The quiet consistency of these processes supports stability over time. There is no need for rapid change. Everything unfolds gradually. The atmosphere continues to move, guided by the same principles that shape all weather patterns. These principles operate continuously, forming a stable system. As the flow continues, it remains calm and unbroken. Each movement leads naturally into the next, creating a continuous sequence. The patterns formed by cyclones blend into the larger system, becoming part of the background of the environment. The steady rhythm remains, extending across distance and time, connecting all parts of the atmosphere in a quiet and continuous flow. The atmosphere continues in a quiet and steady state, where motion never truly stops but only changes form. Air drifts across vast distances in layers that move at different speeds, yet remain part of one connected system. Everything feels continuous, without sharp edges or sudden transitions. Even after organized systems like cyclones fade, the environment does not become still. Instead, it returns to a more even distribution of motion, where small shifts in temperature and pressure gently guide the flow of air. These shifts are subtle and constant, shaping the background rhythm of the atmosphere. Clouds may appear in soft, scattered formations, moving slowly with the upper winds. They stretch and thin over time, blending into the sky without clear beginnings or endings. Each cloud is part of the same continuous process of rising and cooling air. The ocean beneath remains active in its own quiet way. Waves continue their slow movement, shaped by distant winds and leftover energy from past systems. The surface changes gently, reflecting the steady interaction between air and water. Heat continues to move through the planet in a balanced cycle. Warm regions slowly share energy with cooler ones, not through sudden transfer, but through long, gradual motion. This redistribution supports the stability of global patterns. Wind flows across the surface of the Earth in broad, soft currents. These currents curve and shift over time, guided by rotation and temperature differences. They do not remain fixed but adjust continuously to changing conditions. In this ongoing motion, there is no single dominant event. Instead, countless small processes occur at once, each contributing to the overall balance. Rising air, sinking air, warming, cooling, evaporation, and condensation all continue together. The sense of movement becomes less about individual systems and more about a continuous background flow. Weather is not separate moments, but a connected sequence that stretches across time. Even in calm regions, air is never fully still. It rises slightly in one place, sinks gently in another, and moves horizontally between them. These motions are small, but they never stop entirely. The planet maintains this balance through constant adjustment. When one area becomes more active, another becomes quieter. When energy concentrates in one region, it gradually spreads outward again. Over long periods, these patterns create a stable rhythm. Not repetitive in a fixed way, but continuous in a living sense, always adjusting, always flowing. Cloud systems form and dissolve within this rhythm. Some last only a short time, while others extend across large regions. Each one follows the same gentle principles of motion and change. The sky above reflects this ongoing balance. At any moment, different layers of movement exist together, some fast, some slow, some barely visible. Yet all are part of the same atmospheric structure. The ocean and atmosphere remain closely linked in this cycle. Heat moves upward, moisture rises, air circulates, and energy spreads. None of these processes exist alone. Each one depends on the others in a continuous loop. As time passes, patterns shift but do not break. The atmosphere does not reset. It transforms smoothly from one state into another, maintaining continuity throughout. Even large systems like cyclones are simply temporary expressions of this broader flow. They appear when conditions align, and they fade when those conditions change. But the underlying movement remains unchanged. After they dissolve, their energy does not disappear. It spreads into surrounding air and water, becoming part of the next phase of motion. The system continues, only in a different form. This ongoing transformation is quiet. It does not draw attention to itself. It simply continues, layer upon layer, moment upon moment. There is no final point in this process. No fixed end where motion stops. Only transitions, always moving from one balanced state to another. The atmosphere remains in gentle motion across the entire planet. From oceans to land, from low altitudes to high layers, everything participates in the same slow circulation. And within this circulation, every change is absorbed, adjusted, and integrated. Nothing is isolated. Everything becomes part of the same continuous flow. In this way, the planet maintains its calm rhythm. Not through stillness, but through balanced, ongoing movement that never truly ends, only continues. And as everything slowly settles into this wider rhythm of motion, there is nothing more that needs to be followed or held onto. Just the quiet understanding that the atmosphere continues its gentle cycle. Air rising, drifting, and returning, again and again. Steady, balanced, and calm. And in that soft continuity, everything can simply rest. Sleep slowly. Sleep deeper. Sleep quietly.